This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast, with original independent science fiction, written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I have Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest coming up on this episode. A glowing, translucent, green ghost just appeared on the bridge of Alibi Jones's ship, calling out, "Don't let me die again." It looks like the ghost of Peter MacDonald, guy who led a previous crew investigating the ghost ship years ago, but who was torn in two when the ghost ship mysteriously disappeared that time, with part of him attached. Alibi's second-in-command, Emily Brown, was engaged to Peter MacDonald until he was killed in the accident. But now, here he is, or at least his ghost is here. But is it really him? We'll see if we can find that out in Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest, coming up on this episode of Glow in the Dark Radio. You might have noticed I'm using Federico Guillen's cover art for the novel as the art for this week's episode. That's because this is the scene that he drew and colored for the cover. This is what he illustrated. Best thing about working with Federico, is that he actually worked off of scenes from the book to create the cover art. So all of those scenes on those Alibi Jones novels, all those scenes come from inside of those books. I was very lucky to be able to work with Fred on those. So yes, I'm sharing his cover art as the art for this episode. If you want to see it full size, you can see it on the Substack post of the episode at glowinthedarkradio.substack.com. Well, I don't run advertising, so this podcast is basically supported by patrons who do so through Patreon. And I've lost a couple lately, so I could really use your help if you've been thinking about becoming a patron and signing up to help support the podcast. You can do so for as little as $2 a month. There's also a $5 a month level and a super duper $10 a month level for patrons. And I run it all through Patreon, Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, you can learn more about becoming a patron and learn more about how you can help support the podcast and get some extra stuff and early episodes out of doing so. Again, this is the only way that I support the podcast. I don't want to take on advertising. I do just, run promos for friends' podcasts as a friendly exchange. So if you can, please do help support the podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. We'll get into Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest next.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. And for fans of Mike, we keep you posted on new smart home systems and products like robot vacuums and robot lawnmowers that seemed like science fiction not too long ago. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's Fix It, F-I-X-I-T, Home Improvement.
here's Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio.
Mac! Emily cried out. Peter MacDonald? Alibi asked. The figure turned away from Emily, towards Alibi. The figure began to answer, paused.
I was,
it said. What do you want, Mac? Emily asked. The figure turned back her way.
I don't know him,
it said. Emily raised her hands to her eyes and forehead, covering her eyes with the heels of her palms. She let her hands sweep down over her face, then dropped them to her sides. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. Mac, Emily began. Peter, you're dead. I saw your body. What was left of you? Oh, God. She sobbed and turned away.
Then how is it I'm here now, Em?
The ghostly figure asked. You're not, Humphreys said, interrupting. You're some kind of hologram or something. There's no such thing as ghosts. I thought you believed in things you could see, Doc, Alibi asked, extending his hand to point out the greenish-yellow translucent man in their midst. I believe we're seeing a creation of the alien ship next to us, Humphreys said. Nothing more. That's not an alien, Emily said. That is Mac.
It is,
the glowing figure echoed.
It's me. And Em, I know. I can remember dying. The ship fading, pulling away, part of me with it.
He extended his arms.
Somehow I didn't die. I'm here. But,
Alibi asked.
You're killing me again with your machines,
Mac said. The trans-space nullifiers, Emily said, explaining. He told me that in my cabin when he first appeared. There, Humphreys said. See, it's a field thing. The alien ship is clearly trying to fool us into turning off the nullifiers. Probably so it can do to us what it did to Schwald. We should get out of here. Alibi, you were correct. No, I don't want to lose him again, Emily said. She walked over to Mac and tried to touch him. He raised his gloved and glowing hand up to meet hers. They passed through each other. You've already lost him, Humphreys said. That is not your Mac.
But I am. I'm Mac,
the glowing man insisted. Alibi closed his eyes, at first to try to think things through. Then he decided to try his mental exercise and opened up the doors in his mind. Are you there, Mac? Can you hear me? He listened, but heard nothing. He opened his eyes. Mac's ghost still stood there on the bridge of the cruiser. Excuse me, Cat said. I am sorry to interrupt, but the power drain is increasing, and now it is logarithmic. Alibi looked over at Cat, and then Emily and Mac. He had to make a decision. He thought it over for a minute. Close the airlock and pull us away from the alien ship, Alibi said after his pause. I'm sorry, Emily. Mac? Alibi? Cat said his name like a question. The airlock is closed. I have started the engines, and they have nearly full power. But we are not moving away from the alien ship. What? Alibi asked. We have power to the engines, and they are firing, but the alien vessel is moving with us, Cat said. We are not pulling away. Emily, Alibi called to her, to your post. Get scanning the alien ship. We need to know if that thing is going to try to take off with us attached. Emily looked again at the glowing Mac in front of her, then tore herself away. She walked back to her station, sat down, and started checking through scanner readings. We're seeing that strange energy again, she told Alibi. But it's intermittent, not steady. Keep an eye on it, Alibi said. Let me know the second it gets steadier. He looked over at the glowing figure. Mac was looking around the bridge. Much as Alibi didn't want to admit it, Humphreys was probably right. There had to be a scientific explanation for their ghost. Alibi turned back to the cruiser's controls in front of him. He began an external visual check of the cruiser, flipping through views from the ship's outside cameras. A strange sight caught his eye. Cat, call up camera 4, Alibi said.
What do you see? Kat called up Camera 4's feed, a view of the ship's starboard side. The airlock of their cruiser was detached from the airlock built into the alien vessel. It was the thing next to the airlock that spooked Alibi. "What is that?" Kat asked. "I don't know. Can't be good," Alibi said. It looked like the alien vessel had extended a tendril of the material the ship was made from and attached it to the side of their cruiser. The two ships were now joined by an arm of black, woven strands.
"That must be the source of the power drain," Kat declared, "siphoning our power through that arm."
"Alibi?" Emily piped up. "The exotic energy signature is still only sporadic, but I'm now getting energy readings inside of the alien ship."
"I remember it all now,"
the glowing figure said. Alibi, Emily, and Kat all turned to listen.
"I remember the pain of being torn in two as the great vessel shifted into null space,"
the translucent green astronaut said.
"And then I was part of the great vessel. The pain was still there, but it became a small thing among so many others."
"So, you're the ship?" Alibi asked.
"No,"
the figure responded.
"Yes, just a part of it, I think."
"You're not sure?" Humphreys asked. He turned to Alibi. "This is a trick."
"I don't know,"
it said, answering Humphrey's question.
"There are many, and one, but I did get us to come back here."
"You came back?" Emily asked. "You brought the ship back?"
"I wanted to see you again, Em,"
the glowing figure said, turning to her. "No," she said. She shut her eyes and turned her back on the apparition. "You're not Mac."
"I am,"
the figure insisted.
"Come on, Em."
"That's it." Alibi jumped up from his pilot's seat, course of action in mind. "Going outside," he said. He left the other three and the ghost of Mac on the bridge. Alibi didn't want to reveal any more of his plans with part of the alien ship standing there to listen. At the cruiser's maintenance station, he grabbed a heavy-duty industrial laser cutter, a portable version of the ones they used in the shipyards to cut and shape ships' hulls. He made his way to the port airlock, donned an EVA suit, and, cutter in hand, exited the ship, emerging on the side opposite the alien craft. Alibi floated around the small bulk of the A.D. Foster. He spotted the arm attaching the alien vessel to their ship, about as thick around as a human being, and growing. Here goes nothing. He charged up the laser cutter, prepping the device.
"What is he doing?"
Alibi heard the ghost ask the others, over the comm. Alibi answered by turning on the tool. He began cutting into the arm, siphoning energy from his cruiser.
"No!"
The glowing figure cried out on the cruiser's bridge in a high-pitched voice. "Mac?" Emily gasped. She'd looked up from the scanner readings expecting to see her former boyfriend. Instead, the apparition now resembled Lenora Schwald. Schwald stood there, staring, her mouth agape in horror, just as she'd appeared when they'd found her body.
"No!"
That was Chapter 21 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest on Glow in the Dark Radio. So now the ghost is Lenora Schwald, who the ship just killed? It doesn't seem to be the spirit, an actual spirit of a dead person, but some sort of projection by the ancient alien ship. Certainly a distraction while the alien vessel tried to connect to Alibi's ship and siphon off its power. But now Alibi Jones is fighting back. Can he, his crew, and his ship escape the grip of the ghost ship? We'll see. We'll find out on our next episode with Chapter 22 of Alibi Jones and the Hornet's Nest on Glow in the Dark Radio. Before I wrap things up, once again, I just wanted to point out the cover art by Federico Guillen. Fred illustrated the scene at the very start of this chapter that we just listened to as the cover art for the novel. And you can see it full size over on the Substack. the Substack post of this episode at glowinthedarkradio.substack.com. But that is why it's a different episode illustration this week. And once again, if you can help support the podcast, I could use your help. I'm looking for patrons to help on a monthly basis, $2, $5, or $10 a month. You can sign up and help support the podcast and get some benefits out of it at patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. And that is all for this time. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2026 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.